One thing that, you talked about was back channeling. You didn't necessarily call it back channeling, but I'm calling it back channeling. Right? Right. So, and I don't think recruiters don't necessarily like this whole idea of back channeling, right? You're circumventing their processes. That's their day job. Right. But like that, I feel like, and I know Tim believes this too, that I feel like is critical. Like it is critical to back channel jobs. And I would love to learn from you, right? Like if you were to break it down for the people listening, what is it? How do you back channel? What is that?
Sure. I think the one great thing would be, hey, everybody in the audience, have you ever gotten the job because you knew someone in the company? I'd love to hear if anyone has had that experience, as I'll go into this.
Let us know, y'all, in the comments. That's a great question, Jordan.
That's a great question.
Yeah. So pop in the comments with, what the situation was, who you were related to, and I'll kind of riff on that for a second. So as you mentioned, a recruiter's job is to find these people, but on the job seeker's side, if you are solely relying on someone else owning your relationships, then you never truly have sponsorship within a company. Think about a company's process. A company is going to first look internally and say, hey, is this job actually a need that needs to be filled outside of our company? Or is this a role that can somehow be filled within our company through promotions or through things that can be made redundant, whatever. Now think of it from our side of like, what do they need? Well, they need someone they can trust. They need to watch their ass. Like a hiring manager is mostly concerned about, I need to not make the wrong decision. So the closer you can be to the actual decision maker in that hiring process, and the closer you can get to that trust through an internal sponsor, the better. So I recommend all job seekers, the first thing that they should do is look within their current network for opportunities. Whether they're looking at and depending on your preferences of like what kind of remote work you're looking for, what's the priority of your lifestyle, that will determine where you look online and what you target, whether that's specific companies or specific industries. But beyond that, check the network first. A lot of us forget about that manager we had 5 years ago at one of our old jobs who we had a great connection with. We haven't talked since we left the company 3 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. And then you actually go on and relook at what some of these people are doing, and they're working in companies that you'd love to work at, but you didn't even put the two together. You should probably try to get back in touch with that person. Now
They moved on.
Yeah, and that process is delicate too, because you don't want to just go up to someone who you haven't talked to in 5 years, like, hey, you have this job opening for me. So that's why networking and backdooring, as you call it, that's just a constant process of building your network so that you have the leverage in your relationships to be able to ask for favors, right? And you've made enough relationships in these industries that it's not much of a reach for you to find someone in a job that, oh man, you might want to do, or they're working at a company that you might want to work at. So that's where I would start.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Jordan, because we do have some people who are showing you a lot of love in the comments, man. Why do you think people fail to realize the value in building networks early on in their careers?
Because you don't see the ramifications of not doing it until you don't have something. It is the common mistake that you don't dig that well until you actually need the water. It's like, oh shit, like I'm really thirsty. I could have been digging that well the past 2 years, but I decided that I would just wait because it was a project I didn't want to get to. It was kind of inconvenient. I already had all the water I needed. But this whole idea of networking, it's just building relationships throughout your entire life. It never stops. It never stops. And it's for any reason. Networking is not just for getting a job. It's for maybe one day you want to start a business and you need people in your contacts to be able to help you with that. Maybe you want a significant other at some point in your life that you don't have. Your network can help you with that. I mean, it's not just for one thing. So if you just focus on giving value, which I think is obviously what all three of us aspire to do, is give value to people, then you will be constantly met with opportunities that you never thought would present themselves. I did not know this opportunity was going to come up to speak with you two today. I'm sure damn glad it did, but I bet you it was probably because I've been commenting on your stuff and messaging you guys for the past 2 years. And we built relationships remotely, right? We never met in person. So all this stuff, it's not a total coincidence. And when you realize that there's certain actions you can do every single day, segment the time and make it a priority.
Love it.
Yeah. So what do you guys, I'd love to hear both of you guys take on this. What do you guys think about, there's two different strategies, right? Like there's one where you're trying to look for a job right away. And there's one where there's like a long-term strategy as well, right? When you're talking about giving value in a short-term perspective, somebody, especially during the pandemic, they need a job and they need it right now, right? Yeah. There's a different strategy that you would potentially deploy there. And I'd love to hear from both of you guys, like how you both think about that. Yeah. And Tim, maybe you want to jump into that one first, and Jordan, you can piggyback off that.
Yeah, no, what I have to say, John, one, if anyone's listening to this right now and is on this, a part of this conversation, I empathize with you if you are in that type of situation. And I think when you're in a situation where it's like a dire urgent, you need a job, it's best to really actually leverage your existing network then, right? Besides kind of proactively seeking to build new relationships and hunting, see if there's anyone that can offer you an opportunity that allow you to make ends meet day to day, week to week, right? Now, I've been an advocate like for the last few months on if you can't find a job, create a job. And it's because, as we both know, there's continues to be a rise in the freelance and remote work economy and just the future of work. And I feel as if like a lot of people, when they're in times of need, the first thing that they ask themselves is, who can I be of service to that will pay me for my services, versus asking themselves, saying, what can I create or offer to get paid, which are two different ways of thinking about sustaining and, like having a job and, having a career. And I actually think it would be in their best interest to the former. And here's why I say that, John. We've had people that we've coached, right, who have told us after they started building their personal brand, putting themselves out there and actually start offering their services, opportunities started coming to them. And we literally have people that we've coached in past cohorts of our Break into Big Tech classes. And they've literally said that because I listened to you and John, I was able to start my own personal business. I was able to get interviews with top tech companies. And I think that there's a different perspective when you start saying, okay, what can I offer versus who can I tell to who can I ask to hire me? You start getting more opportunities come to you. Jordan, would love to get your thoughts on this, man.
Am I allowed to be blunt?
Oh, of course, man.
Please. Whatever you think, even if your opinion differs from ours, man, like let us know.
No, I ask for permission first.
Yeah, do it.
Okay. So a job search is not about you. And Tim hit on that perfectly. It's like, hey, the mindset shift is you need a job. Well, it's not the company's responsibility, and you're not fucking entitled to a job.
Damn.
No one is.
No.
So just because you're desperate, and I understand there's really tough situations out there. I'm not discrediting or invalidating you and your tough situation, but that does not mean you're entitled to a job. So you can't treat it like you're entitled.
Especially if you have a degree, right? Because I think there's a mentality if you've got if you have a master's degree or if you're about to go to school, that somehow that will entitle you to a job, but it won't. It won't. It actually doesn't do anything for you necessarily if you're not the one hustling.
Yeah. And I see it with people that don't have degrees. I see it with people in all walks of life that because there's this huge economic downturn, whatever, their industry went away, that, and they're desperate. I get it. Like desperate times, desperate measures, like people emotionally are charged and they don't know what to turn to, but that doesn't help you in the job search. It doesn't help you to think short term. And I get that there's a different strategy that you would deploy if, so here, the example that I would bridge there is if I see a company listing that I don't know anybody at the company, I don't know anybody who knows anybody at the company, but the application's been up for a week, 2 weeks, and I'm like, man, I need to really apply. It still doesn't throw out the fact that you need to make a connection first before you ever send a resume or an application.
I'm so with you, dude. I'm so with you.
None of my clients send in any cold applications. No. You either connect with an employee at the company who works adjacent to the team, on the team, whatever, who can kind of validate some of it. You find a creative way to, you don't just send a blanket like LinkedIn message. This is like doing some recon, some research. This is emailing people. This is being out of the box, because if you're just another message to that recruiter saying, hey, saw this application, I'm really interested, thanks. They're not, it's not community, or it's not charity. So
no, it's not charity.
You have to be different than everybody else. And in a time when so many people are, frankly stressed and desperate, I feel like it's actually easier to stand out right now.
That's fascinating, man. That's really fascinating. Okay, so let's say you have this situation where you need to make a connection. Right?
The audience, bro, they're commenting. They are going
totally, yeah. So you have the situation where you're saying don't apply. You're saying look at the application and resist and recon. Resist and recon.
Yeah, because you're just adding more time on the front end.
Yeah, right.
You're adding by being not strategic, by just floating an application in there because it might close tomorrow or this or that. Like, you're throwing away all of your strategy for the short-term gain of feeling like you're productive, but you're not actually being productive. You're adding more time to the entire process.
I love that.
You're spending all this time on an application that has 1% chance of being responded, when you could spend another few hours just to do the recon and up your percentage of even a response by 20, 30, 40, 50%. That's why my clients get responses, man. They don't, like, we're not in the game of getting ghosted because we're not just blasting applications out. That's not how it should be done.
Yeah. So another thing too that's really interesting here is that, especially if it's a big corporation, the individuals that work at these big corporations get the kickback for you to refer them, right? And so a lot of people are afraid to do those type of back channel things or reach out to their network. But it's the people that have been in corporate for a while that understand, like, if I refer this candidate and they're a great fit, I might make $2,500. I might make $5,000. In some cases, I might make $10,000 depending on the type of hire, right? So please reach out to me. And if you're the type of individual who's like, nah, I don't really want to do that, then fine, move on to the next person who is willing to do it.
Yeah.
Because they make money.
Yeah. Well, then the broader point that I think you're bringing up, John, is that we're not, like, everyone feels like they're a pest. It's like, if you truly believe that you're a good fit for a job, then, and you are applying in a way that a recruiter and a hiring manager can notice you, it's different, it's unique, you're helping them do their job.
Yeah.
Every job seeker starts off as a risk to companies. Yeah. You're a risk. You don't start off as a gain. You're a risk. So
unless you're an all-star,
how do you de-risk? How do you de-risk the process?
Yeah, you de-risk the process.
Know someone internally. Create trust. I don't know if you guys know Austin Belsack. He talks a lot about the value.
Austin's awesome.
We know him very well.
Yeah. I call it that. The value asset. It's like I've had people do that. That's what I did for any of the companies that I was going after. You always have a project. You always have something that proves to them. If you're a social media marketing person and you don't create something that they can see for their own brand, why are you not using your skills to show them that you're the right fit? And I think it's just, there's a lot of strategy that needs to go into this, and people rush themselves out of getting any responses at all.
Yeah. Tim, I want to switch gears real quick, Tim, because I think this is a great topic. You and I talk about this a lot. I don't know if our audience has heard this topic from you and I, but I think there's also a belief in the value of yourself. I want you to comment on that, man, because I feel like that's huge, and people don't necessarily believe in themselves.
Yeah, John, no, so thankful that you're touching on that. Man, I think, and I think Jordan probably could touch on this, man, because you've been remote for a long time, and there's a lot of intrinsic motivation that happens, like, that you need as a remote worker, whether it be job hunting, doing the work, like, you have to actually, like, be self-motivated to make things happen. And one thing that we've found, John and I have found, and I've also found in a lot of people that I talk to, is that a lot of people don't even already believe that they have the skills. So like you have to kind of like completely kind of change their mindset, right? I think there's a mindset shift that we're touching on how do you make those lateral backfield relationships where you actually can pitch yourself to people who are in lateral relationships, as Jordan has mentioned, or in positions to hire you. But it takes this mindset of like, look, like you have to think from an abundance standpoint. And here's why I think people don't usually think from that standpoint, because they often think that they're competing against a stack of people who are just like them, right? Ain't that true, bro? Like, ain't that true, Jordan?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I would love to get your thoughts on Jordan. It's like, how do people like get out of that mindset of like, oh shit, like, man, like I'm not special. Like I'm just going to be another application that's pitching, but I'm not even going through the application portal. I'm pitching myself to a person, but they have options. How do you differentiate yourself in that regard, man?
Oh, I love this. I have a post that's in the hopper on this, and it's centered around the fact that you're never competing against everyone. So if there's a job that has 1,000 applications, you're not competing against 1,000 people. You're competing against maybe the top 10% of that 1,000. You're competing against 100 people for the interview process, right? Or for that first round of screening or whatever. So whenever you see those daunting numbers, just think in your head, if I do a little bit extra than everyone else, I got a shot. And that's how you have to frame it. I'll give you a couple examples. Last year, 2 years ago, I won 2 competitions in the span of 3 months. I won a free trip to Mexico that took me throughout 6 different cities in Mexico. It was by Salina, this road trip. There was 650 participants. And you had to do a little challenge for 4 weeks straight. The challenges range from throw an event for a charity to send people to our blog and or our hiring page and have them apply. And you get points for everything. Well, it's getting tracked the entire time. And by the second week, there was really only 10 people even doing it. And there was 12 winners. So you can think about it like this. Most of the people do a really shitty job. Their application is just sent in haphazardly. Their resume is not really tailored. They didn't do a cover letter, or if they did, it's confusing. The keywords aren't in there. They don't know anybody at the company, all of that stuff. So the mindset is, if I just do more than everybody else, and you have to have that in every phase of the process, but just to look a little bit different at the beginning and then keep on going. Same thing with the other competition. And this is not to brag. It's just to say, like, there was 300 people who put a comment. So this was for Noah Kagan. I don't know if you guys know him, but Noah Kagan, he's an entrepreneur in Texas. He runs appsumo.com. And he was running this competition where you just had to leave a comment with what you were doing, taking advice from his YouTube channel or whatever, and list out a couple examples and share it with a couple of people, whatever. You could see all the comments. So I could literally see what the competition has said. And I was like, I'm going to ball out on this. Wrote like an essay on all the things that I was doing. I shared it with the people. I emailed him, and I was one of the 4 winners. And it was just like, he flew me out to Austin. He gave me $1,200. It was like this crazy thing. And you think, whenever you see those competitions, like, oh, I can never win that. It's the same as you look at the job application. You're like, oh, there's 500 applicants. I can never get that. No, you can. Even the most qualified people don't always get the job. It's the people who eliminate that trust gap between the hiring managers and recruiters and who they actually like.
Yeah.
They want people like to work with you. So all those make it up.
Yeah, when you said that, I wrote a note down here that I wanted to share with everyone. It's also about who gets to the hiring manager first. Who gets top of mind, right? And that's why these back channel relationships are so important, right? Like let me give you an example, right? So I just had somebody who I knew ask me to refer them for a role internally at my company. We have a big internal chat messaging tool So I can see.
It's called Chime, right?
Yeah, Chime. So I can see. Actually, we switched to Slack.
Oh, cool.
So actually, now we're back and forth between like Slack and Chime. It's a gigantic mess, but we're trying to figure out like how to transition totally over there. But anyway, so I go on the phone tool, which is what we call as the phone tool, and the phone tool shows me the reporting structure of everybody in the org. I go on the job portal. I see who's the hiring manager. I see who's the recruiter. And the last thing on earth that I'm going to do is message the recruiter. The last thing I'm going to do is message recruiter. I'm going to send an email to the hiring manager directly with the person's email or with the person's resume, which is perfectly tailored to that job. And I'm going to say this guy or this gal is an absolute perfect fit. The next thing you know, because it's an internal connection, it's an internal email, is that they respond back either via chat to learn more, or they respond back via email like, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I'll, it's top of mind now, and I'll run this person through the interview process. Like, thanks so much for the, the hat tip on this individual. So that person has circumvented the entire process. 300 people are in the application pipeline working with recruiters to schedule this, to schedule that. And then the hiring manager comes down from the top and goes, hey, Jane, or hey, Jim, I want to interview this person.
Yeah.
Like, it's all bullshit, dude. It's like all back channel, right? Like, you're skipping all of the front end crap that you actually have to deal with normally. And you're going right to the front of the line. So that's the value in that process.
That's powerful, man.
I love it, man. I love it. And it's very similar to a few things that happened last week with a couple of my clients. Two of them, I have a friend here in Playa del Carmen who works for a video conferencing company, and they needed to hire some people. And I was like, I got 2 people that'd be great for it. Between that and then a week and a half later, they had offers.
Yeah.
And, like, it's crazy, right? It's like,
it's crazy.
You hear about it happening, and it's like, it's possible for everyone. Everyone, like, all of what we need in our life is within our weak ties, within that second connection, third connection on LinkedIn.
Yep.
It's all out there. We just got to get better at connecting those dots.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch to the audience questions. There's a bunch of really great ones. Before I do that real quick, though, I'm just going to give a shout out to everyone listening. We thank you so much for tuning in. This is awesome. And keep the questions firing. We're going to try to get to as many of them as we can within this hour. And at the same time, create a post about this event on LinkedIn.
Show us love.
Yeah, share one key takeaway that impacted you this evening, right? When we talk about personal branding literally just comes down to a definition of, I share my thoughts with the world. And it's a culmination of those thoughts that over time that make your brand. It's not a logo. It's not a whole bunch of flashy things. It's literally what you write and what you create videos about over a long period of time defines you. And you can use it as breadcrumbs, both for yourself to grow and use it as breadcrumbs for other people to follow in the footsteps that you took to get to where you're trying to go. Right. So there's a lot of value in doing that. So definitely, create a post, share with the one takeaway, and it'll also help your personal brand. We'll help boost you. We'll comment on your posts and show you some love. So that's that.
Make sure to show us some love. Tag Jordan. Tag me.
Yeah. Don't tag me. No, tag me. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, so Imtiaz asks, I'm just going to start going down the line here. How as a candidate, you would know if the organization you want to work for would be a good fit, how to look for red flags so that we can vet them wisely. Jordan, I'm going to start with you on this one. Go to Tim after.
Yeah. So obviously there's sites that cover this, like Glassdoor, for instance, has a bunch of different reviews on there. I also find that those are not always reliable, because you're often going to get the disgruntled people, whether maybe it's just a small percentage, but those are going to be the high percentage of the people commenting. So the best way to do it is to find someone internally that hopefully you know or know somebody. And this is why it goes all back to networking, because someone who's actually working there can tell you what's going on internally. So that's the best way if you can ever find that. Now, beyond that, I also want to say you don't know until you're actually there.
No.
Like a lot of times you and this is why, John, you had a grass is greener post recently.
Yeah.
And then this is kind of that thing, right? It's like, it may seem like this company is just like the bee's knees, and you build up this idealistic version of what it's going to be like to be there. And then you're there, you're like, shit, why did I do this?
Made a mistake.
It's okay to make mistakes. We learn, but you do want to be cautious. And when you think of red flags, I mean, maybe in the interview process, you should bring up any concerns that you have or things that you've seen in the news. Google News is a good place if the company's being talked about in any way.
Yeah.
It's also good to find out, like, if you could find out anything about their churn or how many people are leaving the company.
Mm-hmm.
So a good stat. So
yeah, that's really key. Like, when was the last person? How long was the person in the role prior?
Yeah,
were they in the role for a year? You know, oh, that's interesting.
Maybe you can find a person, and there's ways to filter this in LinkedIn. You can find the person who worked at the company before but recently switched jobs, and you may be able to find someone within that team or some adjacent team, especially for larger companies where people are kind of shuffling in and out.
Yeah.
And find someone who maybe you have some common ground with, went to the same college, or you can pick something on their profile, send a nice message and ask for an informational interview. Just say, hey, you know, I'm looking to work at this place. I want your opinion, but always give people an out too. Don't make them feel like they're forced to talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And Tim, so what do you think about that? Like, as a candidate, how would you know, right? Like when you came into Microsoft, for example, or you came into Google or Facebook, right? No, I mean, it's really interesting. Now, you're far enough out of that scenario. You probably openly talk about it, right? You know, what was your impression going in, and what was your impression leaving?
Yeah, you know, your impression going in is always you're wide-eyed, you're super excited. It's
super excited.
Amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
Then you get in there, you realize everything's a clusterfuck.
Totally. Doesn't matter the company. Doesn't matter the company.
Everything's a clusterfuck. Like no one has absolutely no idea what they're doing. And you have to figure it out as well. And I think one of the things that we've been really on a theme about is this importance of when you go into a company, building allies and also networking internally as well. I think is actually really big, because you need to have people that you can depend on or trust you, so you can stay there and you don't churn out. And I think with personal branding today, a lot of companies are looking for remote all-stars, as we could call it. And Jordan can probably even speak to this with some of his clients he's worked with. Like, you gotta stand out. Like I'm saying this as someone that's building a company, and you know, I'm working with the rock star, my co-founder. We have a rock star and one of the engineers on our team. You know, I have to evangelize our vision. It's like the next generation of companies want people who are brand advocates as talent, like whether senior leadership, mid-level, or junior. And it's really important that anyone like thinks from that mindset. Now, being an all-star doesn't mean that you overshadow people or you make them feel less than. It means that you are like, you're creative. Like, you're always doing something to kind of like, how do I say this? To add value, not only to yourself, but also to the brand or company you represent. And I think there's a really huge opportunity for a lot of people who are listening in right now. If you're not doing that right now with your personal brand or your career, you can start today. And, you know, people like Jordan, they coach people on doing it at a high level.
Yeah. That's a really good answer, man. So it's interesting. A lot of times people talk about company culture, and you can't look at the company culture. I don't necessarily believe that companies have cultures. I think sub-teams within companies have cultures. And from one floor of a building to the next, the culture is going to be dramatically different. They might have the same leadership principles that cut across everything. They have a CEO that paints a vision of where people are going and things like that. And a lot of like kumbaya marketing stuff with dogs running around the hallway and everybody excited. But the reality is the person who is going to make or break, whether your experience is shit or not, is going to be your direct manager. You're going to have some other people who are possibly going to be a pain in the ass, right? Or you're going to be like, man, my job sucks because of Bobby, but at least I don't have to report to Bobby, right? I got to report to Jane, and Jane is awesome. So, so think about that. It's always subgroups within an organization. And so what you want to do is you want to be really hyper-focused on, is Bobby my manager, Jane my manager? Do we believe the same things? Like going a level deeper. What do you believe outside of work? What do you love doing? That's what I want to know about that person, because like when I joined the team that I'm on right now, the reason why I knew it was going to be an amazing fit is because my boss and I had a deeper conversation than just the surface level bullet points on a resume or job description. It was like I got to know him as a person, and my literal values outside of work were aligned with his. We had similar hobbies. I'm like, this is going to be a great fit. But I had to go that level deeper to get there.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's such an important point in that interview process.
Yeah.
Make sure you talk to whoever's going to be directly managing you too. Like,
oh yeah,
and have some good questions for them about their management style. And again, they're trying to figure out if they're going to like you. You need to figure out if you're liking them.
It's just as much you on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. It's so fascinating that you all say this, and I think for us, we're actively fundraising. I think it's so important how important partnerships and relationships between managers are, and when you're working with people, and I think that's something that Jordan, you kind of touched on it, is why it's so important to like reach out, like, and make those lateral relationships before you I love that you said that. Don't even apply from the front end.
No.
Literally.
Never, bro.
Like, don't even do that anymore. Like, it's so. I think the common behavior for everyone because John and I haven't we even applied for a job in years, right? You know what I'm saying? We have personal brands. If John was to ever leave Amazon, he would never apply for a job. Right?
I would never ever apply for a job. I'm gonna back.
Yeah. He would never. Jordan, you have a global brand. I think what's so interesting for me is how much conditioning people have now to like just say, the first thing I'm going to do is not reach out to the CEO. Like, the first thing I love is like when people reach out to me and they're like, I'm interested in working with Guy.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to me because I know that, one, they're taking the initiative, and two, like they have some sort of edge to be like, hey, let me reach out to the CEO, and they see an opportunity, they see possibilities. And often I'm in my DMs, so I'll follow up and be like, "Hey, what role are you interested in?" And I think it's very rare you see people with that kind of mindset, that opportunistic mindset. And I think that's a rare trait in people who are seeking jobs, in my opinion.
It is so true, man. That is so true. You need to have that opportunity. You need to have that mindset where you're like, I'm going to find those opportunities, and I'm not going to, like, if everyone is thinking the same way with the job application process, then there must be something wrong. I need to be thinking differently. Or what is wrong, or why does everyone have the exact same mentality when it comes to this, but they inherently know that it doesn't work?
Yeah.
They know it doesn't work. So, but they don't question it, right? And so we have to kind of take this conscious mentality about the whole process and say, why? Just ask the question, why does everyone do it this way? And the answer you're going to come to is, I don't know, because it doesn't work. Never tried. And then you're going to go and you're going to think about a number of different other questions that you're going to want to try and explore.
Yeah. Jordan, we have a question for you, man. And this is and it's one of the big themes in this live. What would you say is your 3-step framework for helping people define their personal value proposition? Especially, as you mentioned earlier, the importance of having a value validation project, or being able to say that you're the person, gal or guy for a role. What's the 3-step framework that you would offer for defining your value proposition, your personal value proposition?
Yeah, well, I think what you need to consider are, what are the skills that you have? And those need to be aligned in the language of the companies that you're wanting to work for, the industries. Like, you actually have to do keyword research on that stuff. I think a lot of people use their own words in a job search, on their LinkedIn, on a resume. Mistake. I even talked to one woman who was like, yeah, I didn't want to use their words because I didn't want to seem like I was copying them. I they would want me to put it in my own words. I'm like, no,
No,
like
they want you to speak just like them.
no sound at all. So the first part of that process is really evaluation of skills, right? And doing it in the framework of what is the company looking for, and how do my skills align to and use their words? How are my skills aligned? Use their words. So it's kind of starting with that, and then from there, it's figuring out what are the experiences that I have that substantiate the skills. So like, what are the things that I've done, whether that be certain jobs or certain times where situational stuff like the STAR technique, where you're basically using the situation and building out what happened, right? The task, the action, and the result. So you're formulating all of this in a way that shows your skills, your experience, and then finally metrics. So you combine these things. And a lot of people have trouble with the metrics part because they're like, well, I don't ever quantify anything. Change that. Like start quantifying. And I'll tell you what, if you can't quantify anything, think about how many team members you worked with. Think about where those team members were. Think about how many projects you did. Think about
language, bro.
Like you start to, yeah, there you go, right? So how many projects are you running concurrently if you're a product manager or a project manager? Like what are the things every day that you're doing? I'm sure you could pick out some numbers. So in expressing your personal brand, skills, experiences, and metrics are kind of the 3-step process within those things that really bring it to life.
That's powerful, man.
Yeah. I love that, man. Super succinct. So Seth says, would you recommend this strategy, i.e. not applying for recent grads? I'm not sure what edge I currently have, so it makes sense that it might be daunting. Yeah, of course you use the strategy. Now don't take this mentality of like, don't ever actually apply, because with these companies, you have to apply at some point. The hiring manager is going to say, like, you gotta put your resume into the pipeline, but they're having that validated conversation beforehand and vetting conversation beforehand, and the application process is a total afterthought. It's like, yeah, just put the shit through the system, they'll take care of it and get you through the next step, right? Because they have these portals. So I agree. And I would say be bold as hell, man. I would literally create a 1 minute video and send it directly to a hiring manager. Like do your internet sniffing, find the hiring managers, be hungry, be bold, reach out to that person directly with a 1 minute video and say, here's why I'm going to crush it. It doesn't matter if you're a student. Why are you going to crush it? You're hungry as hell. You're gonna crush it because you're not complacent like the guy who has 20 years experience, who's been doing the same crap for 20 years over and over and over. Experience in a lot of cases is total bullshit. It's subjective truth.
Yeah, there's a lot of bias in hiring. I'm sure. I think what I love about Jordan's perspective and framework that he just offered people is that you all can you can challenge the bias by defining what your skills are, but also, at the end of the day, relationship building is really important to working anywhere, and really just like speaking the language of the company.
Yeah.
And, every company is unique, really and truly. So, I think you have to understand what you're signing up for, even as an employee nowadays. It's like, or do you want to sign up for a culture like that? And, Jordan, if you have any thoughts on that, would love for you to share. Man, y'all are blowing this up.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking for the next one to hit.
Yeah, y'all are blowing this up. Man, I love it.
Back to analogy, to what John said about the resume in the system, right? So the idea, there's an analogy to this that I tell my clients. You don't want a hiring manager or a recruiter accidentally finding your resume. You want them intentionally looking for it.
Yeah.
So that's to say, it's all an afterthought. The whole resume and sending it in, it's all an afterthought. It's something where you've already discussed the fact with them that they said, hey, yeah, send me your resume. That's when you should be sending a resume.
Yeah.
When they're asking for it, right? Because then they're going to go look at it. the common misthought is, oh, if I send it in, they'll find it and look at it. It's like, no, man, like 70% of them get cut off from the start. Why are you playing against that?
Yeah.
You're messing up your chances. And then, Tim, I'm sorry, I don't. What was your question specifically?
Yeah, no, I think you touched on it. It's essentially, how do people kind of like make sure they know what they're signing up for when they join an organization. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, again, I don't think we're ever going to know that, right? We can get the clues as much as possible from whatever we can find online, but this is all that. It's like all back to relationships, and relationships are so important because if you end up having enough relationships, and those relationships have relationships, you can pretty much always find someone in some company.
Yeah.
But that has to be a constant practice. It can't be just when you need a job.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a really good one here. I'm going to broadcast this comment to the room.
And don't forget to share a post on what you're learning. Jordan,
Yes.
You're sharing all kinds of sauce.
Yeah, this is awesome, Jordan. So, Jordan, this is a comment from Jen. How is that some folks manage to talk through the interview and quote, market themselves so well, but it's all talk? Personally seen this with folks hired in my past companies. For me, I tend to understand or undersell, or I try to undersell and not talk about certain things I did, which I consider just normal work. But I have seen folks talk about mundane things and make it sound great. Is it a personality trait?
Well, thank you for the question, Jen. I think in my initial thought, it's not a personality trait. It's a skill of being able to connect the dots, right? It's being able to take the skills, the experience, and the metrics and put them together in a way that the company is asking for. Remember, the job search is not about you. It's about the company. You are the solution. You are the solution to the company's problem.
Yeah.
So you have to take that frame of mind in everything that you do. And if that means taking some of that work that you've done in the past and making it fit for what they want, then that's what you need to do. You can never think that what you've done in the past implies anything to a company. You have to spell it out to them. And the better you get at spelling it out, making it really obvious, making it very easy, be empathetic to them. They're looking at hundreds of resumes a day. Make it easy for them in the first half of that resume to understand, oh, I know exactly what Jen did. I see the keywords. I see how she's done these tasks in this way. That's exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And like you touched on the STAR method, right? It's a skill that you need to practice. And a lot of people are not very good at first, right? Just like anything. When you start something new, you are not very good at it until you practice and you get better. And your stories have to flow. What was the situation? You have to tell me a story, not a robotic situation. We were faced with this really fascinating challenge. I was personally really fascinated with this challenge that had to do with X, Y, and Z that hooks me as the reader. Now I'm excited as an interviewer, and I'm going, I want to learn more. And because of this crazy problem that I was dealing with, what I had to do was take a measurement. Where are we at? I don't even know where we were at. So I wanted to take a baseline measurement of where we were at so that I could create a goal to get where we want to go. Oh, sounds great. How did you do that? Well, I took action X and Y, and over the course of 3 months, what I did was, I described the tasks a little bit, and as a result, it led to 30% growth in sales over a 6-month period that nobody ever expected, right? People were poo-pooing this initiative that I wanted to do. I was getting heat from senior leadership. They didn't want to do it. And somehow I proved them wrong, right? Like, wow, success story. This is awesome. I want to hire you, right? So like you have to practice telling a story like that.
Yeah, it can never be the first time you're telling that story. Like
you got to learn how to. It's actually a skill. You got to learn how to big up yourself.
Big up yourself. Yeah, big up yourself. Damn right. Because when you big up yourself, see, if you undersell yourself in the interview, you're going to undersell yourself when it comes to the offer.
Ooh, hey, that is true. That's so true.
Right? So like sell the shit out of yourself so that you can get the best friggin' offer possible, right? It is a game. You play the game.
That's big, man. That's big. Jordan, how do we big up ourselves, man?
How do you big up?
Tell us, Jordan. Give us the sauce.
Man, writing down every day. Reflection, like finding a way to be grateful for the little things. Like I talk to a lot of people who come in as my clients and they don't have a reflection process. So what I do is on a daily, I have a journaling in the morning, journaling in the evening. It's a 5-minute journal. It's quick, it's easy. And when I look at that each week, I have time on Sunday and I write out everything that I won that week. I'm constantly reinforcing the wins because that's what, when you put your focus on what you're doing well at, it brings more good things to you. So it's really, and again, this is a practice, right? It's not something you're born with. You have to do these things. You have to make the time for these things. Networking, reflection, focusing on wins, like all those things for me are non-negotiable.
Powerful. John, man, we're running.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like just one more question. I'm going to pop from the audience here.
Hey, shout out to y'all for showing us so much love, man. This is an amazing, attentive audience.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. This has been a lot of fun, and I'm really fascinated hearing your perspective on this, Jordan. It's awesome. It's awesome. So, let's see. Galalet song. Oh man, I'm probably butchering the name. Apologies, but this individual says building relationships may be tricky, maybe a bit tricky. Where do you start? I've been on LinkedIn for almost 3 months now, and I'm trying to understand how does one build relationships. So we've talked a little bit about the relationship side of things, but I'd love to learn from you, Jordan. How do you build relationships from the content creation side of things? We haven't really touched on that.
That's powerful.
Start with comments.
Yeah.
Hey.
Like comments are the low barrier, high value way to get noticed. And the moment you start leaving comments on good content and people that have audiences and you're early on their content, I'll give you a little hack that you can do. Go to someone who posts great content. Go to John's, go to Tim's, and go to their post, their activity feed, where it says posts after you click all activity.
Yeah.
Bookmark that in your bookmarks bar. And then segment 15, 20 minutes every single day. Have a list of people that you want to hit. Just go one by one, see what it is, if they post anything. And you can change the people out. You can add more. You can do some people on some days. But that's honestly, like, that's how I do it. I literally have people I have like a LinkedIn people bookmarks in my bar up here. And it just goes directly to their posts, not to their profile. So I'm wasting zero time hopping from one to one. And then I can see their feed. I can leave a very thoughtful comment. I've gotten clients. I've gotten partners. I've gotten speaking gigs from comments.
Yeah,
that's amazing, bro.
That starts your momentum, because then you start feeling comfortable sharing, right? And then once you go from that, you see, oh wow, that comment got like a ton of likes. Maybe I should create content about that.
Yeah.
So as long as you're staying in your realm,
yeah,
it's gonna be great.
Or literally take that comment that you created and use it as a post. I do that all the time.
Exactly.
You know. So yeah, I love that. Tim, what do you think about content creation and building community, man?
Man, you know, it's so, because you know me, bro. I love content. We're super. Yeah. Man, I think people. One of the things your content strategy should be tailored around your community. So, like, we all know Jordan because Jordan really creates a lot of content for remote people. That catches me because I'm super big on the future of work. So I listen to a lot of Jordan's content due to that, because I'm like, okay, what's he seeing? What trends is he seeing? So it's relative.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, when they think about a content strategy, they think about it from their perspective versus their audience or their community's perspective. Who are you looking to serve with your content? So the quicker you kind of like bridge that translation gap between what do you want the outcome to be for your audience and who are you trying to reach? So every time Jordan shares something, I'm thinking like, oh, he's trying to empower people who are remote workers. Boom, boom. That's like 1 billion people right now. So like, Literally, that's like a billion people right now, and I'm one of those people. So I'm like, okay, like this is really a lot of stuff to make sure I'm high performing as a remote CEO, building a remote team. How can I share some of this stuff with my team? And like that's how you really kind of, I think, you close that transition gap in your content. Like you're not creating content for you, even though it's like if you like it, you're creating content for the people who want to like learn more from you or pay you for what you do.
Yeah,
and it can even be for one person. If you create content for one person, guaranteed there's someone else out there too. So think about that one person, and then that makes it a little bit more simple, right? That you just don't need to make it too complicated.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, like with Jordan and Tim, they're in slightly different situations, right? They are entrepreneurs right now, right? Like I'm in corporate, and so because
all kinds of content.
But the thing is like, there's a strategy behind content creation when it comes to like selling yourself and getting your word out there. When it comes to like, you got to hustle, like, but like for me, because of the corporate gig, I'm also just posting a lot of content on just like whatever I love. And like, I don't necessarily care about the engagement, right? I'm just doing it because I'm doing it. I'm not necessarily trying to like further a career, like get a sale. I'm just doing it. So two different ways to really think about it. But with that being said, we're closing out here, guys. Jordan and Tim, I'll ask you both for last words. Any last parting words from you, Jordan?
Yeah, and actually it would be one more addition to something that was asked earlier, which was about how we can big up ourselves, how we can create self-esteem, how we can create confidence in this whole process. One of that's through commitment. So you have to be committed to what it is that you're doing. And I see a lot of people kind of fluttering around. And the truth is maybe they're not actually committed to what the outcome is, right? And I really want to take a look at that, because confidence comes from first committing to what it is that you want to get done. And one of the funny strategies that I've used is I've created an alter ego for myself. If you have trouble speaking in interviews, you have trouble going through your life with less confidence in here, less confidence in there, which I saw was mentioned. I'm Juan Jorge on Saturdays. My girlfriend was just tired of me not being able to walk slow. I walk really fast, like I gotta be everywhere all the time on Saturday, and I'm just like, no, we gotta go here, we gotta go there. And man, I created this character, and Juan Jorge is he's a surfer in Mexico. He walks really slow. He browses like stores. So if you need to create that alter ego for when you go in those interviews or when you need to step into your zone, do it.
That's
awesome. I love that, dude. I love that. That's so awesome. That was awesome, man. Yeah. All right, Tim.
Yeah,
you're up, bro. You're up.
Yeah, John, man. Thank you. You're a wonderful host, brother. I think my parting words would be, stay in the mindset of a creator. Be a doer. I think a lot of people try the spray and pray method for job application for their careers, and what I've learned during this pandemic, and this is coming from someone that's building a company through a pandemic. It's like the people that win and find the most success are the people who are doing things, and they're proactively doing. They're not waiting for anyone to say, "Hey, I'll give you an opportunity." They're building those lateral relationships, and they're going through the back door. And I think that's a really powerful skill. And for me, it's not even just a matter of being scrappy. It's not a matter of grit. It's just you're thinking differently than other people, because the average person is saying, who's going to give it to me first? And I don't think that's the way the world is going. So shift your mindset when it comes to your career. Be proactive and see what you can create in your career versus who you're waiting to give you something.
Yeah. I love that. It's interesting that the closing words from both these individuals is related to mindset. Keep that in mind, okay? All these other things are implementation details, tasks. Everything else comes down to mindset and the belief in yourself and not waiting for anyone else's permission to be what you want to be who you want to be, right? That is the key, guys. Like that is the biggest unlock for all three of us in life. And where we've gotten to how we've gotten to where we've got is because I butchered that. But that's the biggest unlock is mindset. So that's all, everyone. Take a screenshot of this event. You want to take a quick screenshot?
Hold on, I gotta take a screenshot.
And you can post it.
Hold on, why is my camera makes you guys look so shady? I think it's horrible. Can you take a screenshot? Does everyone look good in the camera?
Let me see. No, you guys look good. All right, give me one.
Take a screenshot, John, and just send it to me because mine's is awful, bro.
All right, give me a smile. All right, I took one. Get some goofy photos out there on LinkedIn, okay? All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. And we're going to send a recording of the event to everybody who registered.
And don't forget to show some love on LinkedIn. Mention us, and we'll boost your post and help you get reach on them. Show some love. Tag Jordan, tag me, tag John, and we'll definitely engage with you.
Love it.
All right, Sean.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you.
Jordan's hilarious.
That's why you get the role. That's why you get the role.